I'm sure most of you watching this have heard about the infamous Black Knight satellite. This object has been seen and photographed for over 100 years. The first satellite ever put into orbit was Sputnik in 1957. That's less than 100 years, so the mysterious object became a legend. Nikola Tesla has claimed to receive a signal, and believers in this object claim that it has been there for 13,000 years. And then, of course, the infamous picture of it showed up online. Again, I'm sure you've all seen it, and many have already known about it being debunked. This image is nothing more than space debris from one of the shuttles, namely a thermal blanket. And well, case closed, right? Well, not so fast, because some scientists have looked at old data and there may not be a black satellite. There might be 9 of them. The first recorded intercept of these satellites came from Nikola Tesla, who said he received peculiar radio signals in his 1899 radio experiments in Colorado Springs. He first thought that they came from up in the atmosphere, but soon realized, no, they were coming from space. He believed he had made alien contact, and they were trying to contact him with numbers, the universal language. The changes I noted were taking place periodically and with such a clear suggestion of number and order that they were not traceable to any cause then known to me. The feeling is constantly growing on me that I had been the first to hear the greetings of one planet to another. Of course, the modern day belief from scientists is to suggest Tesla was crazy and these were most likely naturally occurring signals that space objects emit while in orbit. Because of course that's what they say. But wait a minute, what space objects would be in orbit in 1899? Asteroids? Maybe, but they tend not to orbit, they tend to get pulled in by their velocity and Earth's gravity. So it's an interesting explanation here. Later, civil engineer and ham radio operator Jorgen Hals stumbled upon an unusual quality to his radio signals. As he transmitted from his home in Oslo, the signals would return to him moments later. And this shouldn't have happened. Hals thought, this has to be an alien phenomena. It was posited that an object that was orbiting the moon for 13,000 years could have led to the long-delayed echoes. He got this number by using the positioning of the North Pole star Polaris in his calculations with the delayed times. He plotted the delayed times against the order in which the echoes were received, and he claimed that after only 2 attempts, he found what looked like a star map. Modern-day scientists, of course, have an explanation for this too. Kind of. And they say these long-delayed echoes are normal space signals. Well, that's a flimsy explanation because as people studying long-delayed echoes aren't really understood where they are exactly coming from, and it's been overlooked that they may be from alien objects or a probe. The strange thing about this part of the theory, though, is that the signal stopped in 1975. In 1954, UFO researcher Donald Kehoe told newspapers that the U.S. Air Force had reported 2 satellites orbiting Earth had been detected. This was years before Sputnik, and no country had yet the technology to put objects in space. There was no confirmation by the military, of course, and Donald was promoting a new book he was putting out, so skeptics claimed that this was a clever marketing ploy. In 1960, there was another appearance with something of a peculiar orbit around the North Pole, an orbit that at that time went counter to the orbits of man-made objects. The explanation for this one? A spy satellite under disguise. Astronaut Gordon Cooper claimed to see many UFOs while in space, and he claims he saw green lights belonging to the Black Knight on his Mercury mission into Earth's orbit. Ground Control also picked up something they couldn't explain. The explanation? Well, Cooper claims he never said this and provided flight transcripts, because we know NASA keeps a diligent record-keeping department. Of course, the last one was the famous picture of what now is believed to be most likely a thermal blanket that was dislodged from the space shuttle. And I'm sure if you've made it this far, you're like, yes, we know all this. What's this all about 9 Black Knight things? Well, we have to establish the main sightings and effects that led to the legend of the Black Knight first. And the convenient picture and explanation of the thermal blanket seemed too good. And this should be a lesson to all those that want to discover the truth. Sometimes we have to be skeptical of all the data while we look into this, because this basically erased all credible curiosity about the Black Knight satellite. And it's just recently some scientists have been going over old data from 1950 and looking over old observatory studies that looked up into the sky. And astronomers noticed something unusual. They saw 9 star-like point sources of light had simultaneously appeared in a photographic plate. None of these point sources were seen in images taken just before the same small patch of sky. They also didn't appear in images taken after. They aren't seen now with more modern and highly sensitive equipment, so what were these 9 transient objects? VASCO, or Vanishing and Appearing Sources During a Century of Observations project, searches for exotic or rare transients. The VASCO project has probed a time baseline of 70 years. Using data from the United States Naval Observatory Catalog, so far, citizen scientists and professional astronomers working via VASCO have found about 100 transient objects, mostly on Palomar Sky Survey red plates. The team at VASCO states that they have seen stars and exoplanets that seem to vanish before. For example, there are variable stars whose brightness waxes and wanes. They're supernova, asteroids, etc. But these specific 9-point sources of light found in a red-sensitive Palomar Sky Survey plate captured in 1950 are different. They don't appear in blue-sensitive plates taken 6 days later. They didn't show up anywhere. The strangeness is how there was 9 of them, there one moment and not the next. And we haven't located them since. They've ruled out lens flares or artifacts. They've ruled out muons and natural radioactivity since they hit the plate at a steady rate. Alpha particles, beta particles, or gamma rays are ruled out because after the nuclear test, Kodak created a new container that protected photographic plates from radioactive contamination. They considered that maybe someone sneezed on the plates, but that doesn't fit with their explanation either. The researchers ruled out asteroids or meteoroids too, such as fragments would be moving in space and they would have moved in the 50-minute exposure time. Couldn't be airplanes because, well, their lights would have left a streak. So far, the only explanation that they have and can't be ruled out is that they're satellites. But in 1950, no one had the technology to put satellites in space. For now, they don't have a good explanation. Someone has manifested strange new objects that would act like natural satellites that we magically haven't detected before, but to me, that seems unlikely. So it would seem it very well may be one of 2 possibilities. They're satellites, and either we actually put them up there before Sputnik, which I think unlikely that after all this time no one has taken credit for such a feat after the Cold War had ended, or there isn't one Black Knight satellite, but 9 of them, and they could still be there right now. It's even more difficult to trace objects up there now. Astronomers have to track all the known satellites, and governments aren't going to confirm or deny their spy satellites they have in orbit. So it's almost impossible to determine if they are still there. So now we know something. 9 objects were detected in the sky in 1950. These objects were there. What they actually are is unknown, and we have no way to track these objects. But what are they? We had the star map created by the long-delayed echo data that said formed a star map relative to 13,000 years ago that suggested it was from Epsilon Boötis. And then there was this message, and it was decoded. It says, "Start here. Our home is Epsilon Boötis, which is a double star. We live on the 6th planet of 7. Check that, 6th of 7. Counting outwards from the sun, which is the larger of the 2. Our 6th planet has 1 moon, our 4th planet has 3, our 1st and 3rd planets each have 1. Our probe is in the orbit of your moon. This updates the position of Arcturus shown on our maps." Now, publications and skeptics like to point out that a few years later, Lunan withdrew his findings. But it wasn't because the message wasn't there. It was because he no longer believed Epsilon Boötis could sustain intelligent life. And this seems like an odd position. The message was there. Whether you believe life could be there or not isn't really relevant. The message seems to suggest otherwise. He also hasn't completely given up, as his latest research suggests that the star system location is also coded into ancient monuments here on Earth, like Stonehenge and the pyramids. So we are left to wonder just what is going on, what these objects are, what in the past happened. We have pieces of our past, glimpses of a memory we can't quite fully recall, and we're left to wonder, what does it mean? If we were visited, where are they? Where did they go? Why haven't they come back? Or did they even leave? Well, now it's time for you to tell me what you think. Do you think the Black Knight lives on with these recent discoveries? Are there really alien probes? Let me know in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps out a small channel like this. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.